Ashish wanted. He told his father, mother, his cousins that now I have built this new house and we will all stay together and happy in this house, but that will not happen.
A grateful and a tearful nation mourns and bids farewell to three fallen heroes. 41-year-old Colonel Manpreet Singh spoke to his family, including a 6-year-old son and a 2-year-old daughter in Chandigarh, just hours before dying of gunshot wounds. 34-year-old Major Ashish Dhonchak from Haryana in Panipat returned to Kashmir to resume his duties 1.5 months ago. He did not know he won't meet his 2-year-old daughter again. And DSP Humayun Muzammil Bhatt, son of retired Inspector General of Jammu and Kashmir Police, had become a father just a month ago. 3 families have been devastated. The encounter in Jammu and Kashmir's Anantnag district is still underway as security forces continue their efforts against terrorists. That's our top story. Also on the show, finally some action. Biden administration promises action after the Indian ambassador to the United States sought prompt action into the matter of a video showing a Seattle police officer laughing over the death of 23-year-old Indian student Janvi. But first, the human tragedy unfolding because of Anantnag encounter.
In just 5 years of service with the Jammu and Kashmir Police, 33-year-old Humayun Muzammil Bhatt handled tough assignments, including in his tenure with the Special Operations Group that handles anti-terrorist operations. On Wednesday morning, on his last mission, he was tracking down terrorists in these forests of the Kokernag area. As Humayun led from the front along with the Army's commanding officer, Colonel Manpreet Singh and Major Ashish, he came under heavy firing and was critically injured. For almost 6 hours, Humayun battled for his life as he lay injured, awaiting an evacuation team that could not reach him in time due to the incessant firing by the terrorists. After an entire day's efforts, the army and the police teams finally reached, but too late. Humayun had cracked the prestigious J&K Police Service and was appointed Deputy Superintendent of Police in 2018. A second-generation police officer, Humayun's father, Ghulam Hassan Bhatt, is a retired IGP who served the Jammu and Kashmir Police Force in its most difficult time. As the body of Humayun was brought to Srinagar for the wreath-laying ceremony and the last rites, the sight of Ghulam Hassan Bhatt walking up to Humayun's body and laying a wreath was heartbreaking. Humayun was married in September last year, and just 29 days ago, the couple had a son. While his father Ghulam Hassan Bhatt tries to maintain his composure amid this tragedy, his family is a picture of the sacrifice and the human cost of terrorism in Kashmir. With Nazir Masoodi in Anantnag, Bureau Report, NDTV. Leading from the front, the men in the uniform killed in the line of duty, leading their troops against terrorists in Anantnag in South Kashmir. 41-year-old Colonel Manpreet Singh, brave heart on the field and father of a 2-year-old daughter and his bereaved son, all of 6. All that is left are the 2 grieving children and his wife, Jagmeet Grewal, an economics lecturer with the Haryana government.
मेरे दिल दा टुकड़ा शहीद हो गया संडे नू मेरी गल होई थी 3 बजे दोपहर नू मेरी गल होई थी कहदा मैं सुत्ता पिया उठिया ए तुसी भी आराम कर लो मम्मी.
At his Chandigarh home, proudly displayed the prestigious Sena medal he received in 2021 as a lieutenant colonel for shooting down terrorists in South Kashmir. This clearly wasn't the first time, but tragically proved to be the last time he led operations in the treacherous area. Originally from the 12th Sikh Light Infantry, serving as a unit commander of 19 Rashtriya Rifles and Army Counter-Insurgency Corps in the valley, Colonel Manpreet had less than 4 months left in his glorious tenure on the field. In his 18-year-long career, he has shot down many terrorists, a fitting tribute to his father's legacy as an army man. Young and dynamic, Major Ashish, meanwhile, all of 34, was the only son of his parents and a father to his 2-year-old daughter. He was looking forward to meeting them and his wife Jyoti next month at his new home after shifting houses in Haryana's Panipat. But the Major's visit to Panipat 6 months ago to attend his sister's wedding was his last. In his 10-year-long career, Major Ashish received the Sena Medal too.
ऐसा लगता है जैसे कि मैं गुनहगार हूँ, कहीं ना कहीं ऐसा फील होता है उनके सामने जाने से पहले कि कहीं मुझसे ना कोई गलती हो रही, वैसा नजर ही नहीं मिला पा रहा। परसों फिर उनकी अपनी बहन से बात हुई थी।
परसों उनसे बहन से बात हुई थी। हाँ, क्या बोल रहे थे वो?
तो उनके फादर काफ़ी बीमार थे, 5-6 दिन हॉस्पिटल में एडमिट रहे थे। तो उन्होंने बोला कि भाई छुट्टी लेके आ जा, पापा बीमार है, एडमिट है, कोई संभालने वाला है, तो अकेला है, तुम है। तो बोला मैं अभी आ नहीं पाऊँगा, अभी यहाँ हमारे कुछ ऑपरेशन में जाना पड़ता है बार-बार।
On their last mission, in the deep forests of Anantnag, the fearless soldiers, wounded by gunshots tracking down terrorists, lay injured for hours before evacuation teams could reach them, but too late. With Nazir Masoodi in Anantnag and Saurabh in Panipat, Vedant Agarwal for NDTV.
And since the operation is not yet over, we'll try and get more details from Ground Zero, where Nazir Masoodi is joining me live from Anantnag. Nazir, give us the details.
Well, operation is underway, though it is during the night. There would not be much activity, except there would be entire cordon has been laid in the entire area, in this forest area as well, and it will be resumed tomorrow morning. So through the day, there was aerial surveillance, drone surveillance, and massive shelling on the suspected militant hideouts in this forest area. So where these militants are believed to be hiding, today morning, police said at least 2 militants appeared to have been cornered, and they identified one of them, Uzair Khan. But this encounter appears to have the footprints of the Pakistani foreign militants. Yesterday, Army's Northern Command Chief said that there are foreign militants who are infiltrating from through Nepal and Punjab border and then disrupting peace in Jammu and Kashmir. But there are serious questions as 3 senior officers lost their lives in this encounter. So was there specific intelligence? That would be the question. And if militants have changed their tactics and this changing complexion of militancy, and militancy going underground like never before, and also will this encounter and the casualties which army and the police suffered will have any impact on the ceasefire, because ceasefire between India and Pakistani armies had certain conditions which was started in February 2021. One of them was Pakistan would not allow any major infiltration, and also there would be not any major attacks on Indian soil, and also there would not be bad actions or beheading or the mutilation of the soldier's body along the line of control. We remember those horrible bad actions. They were stopped. Infiltration was largely reduced, but we see there have been these attacks, series of attacks, both in Jammu region and as well as in Kashmir Valley. We saw in Rajouri, Poonch, there have been frequent attacks, particularly in April, May. Just 2 days back, there was an encounter, and now we see this encounter, which has been going on for last more than 36 hours, in which senior army and police officers have laid down their lives.
All right, Nazir, thank you so much for sharing the details. Let me bring in my guests. Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain is joining me live. We also have General Satish Dua, SP Vaid, former DGP of Jammu and Kashmir. Major General Sanjay is joining me. Also Major Yash Moore, who is a defense analyst. General Hasnain, beginning with you, could we see India retaliate since the handlers of these terror modules are all sitting in Pakistan?
Thank you, Maria. Thank you for inviting me for your show. I've got a short time with you, so I will try and make use of that before I have to leave. As to your question, first of all, let me start by expressing my deep regrets for the loss of lives, and that too of senior officers in a case like this. But as to your question, how many times are you going to retaliate? If you find that you have crossed the threshold, if the enemy has crossed the threshold in your assessment, go ahead, we should do it. We did it in the case of Pulwama, we did it in the case of Uri. Now, we didn't do it in the case of the loss of 5 paratroopers, SF people in the Rajouri forest, 5 Sikh allied soldiers or other Sikh regiment soldiers before that. There will be more operations, there will be casualties, many terrorists will be killed, we will lose some men. What I'm trying to say is that you have to have a strategy. You can't have these knee-jerk reactions and a demand from the people of India to conduct an operation and the government of India goes there and conduct it. No, it's not done like that. You have to think through this. Let these operations complete. There are operations going on at the moment. I wish to correct Nazir Masoodi. These operations do not cease and resume next morning. These operations are 24/7. They will carry on. Maybe you cannot send up your quadcopters and things like that. No one sleeps at night. These operations are on. 24/7 they will continue. We have unfortunately had an encounter in which we have lost a commanding officer, another officer, and a Jammu and Kashmir police officer. Last we had 4 years ago or 3 years ago, in 2020, we had the CO of 21 RR similarly, who also died of his wounds after having been fired upon in a major operation. So this kind of a thing is there. It happens because our officers are known and reputed to be right in front in the conduct of operations. This was a tactical operation in which the company commander had got all the intelligence, and when you have definite specific intelligence, the commanding officer definitely would join into the operation to make sure there is 100% effectiveness of the operation. That's exactly what has happened. But unfortunately, that intelligence was not absolutely specific. They have managed to come up to the area, and when they were searching it, they were fired upon. They were fired upon because the terrorists have the initiative, and they are watching you, they are static, they can see you, and they will probably fire first. In that first volley of fire, they have been fortunate that they managed to get our commanding officer and 2 other officers. That's the long and short of this whole operation.
Yes.
Now, the build-up, which will take place further. I hope that these 2 terrorists will be neutralized, and then the government of India will have to take a decision at this stage. Are we willing to escalate? Would we like to do it trans-LC right across the line of control? Would we like to do it deeper? Would you like to do it with artillery, with missile fire? That's for the government of India to decide. I don't think we really can discuss options out here because we are not fully empowered. We do not have the full knowledge of what's happened on ground.
Okay, General Hasnan, I know you have to head for another show. So before I let you go, a quick word on have the terrorists started changing their tack?
See, for a long time, and I'm sure my colleagues will agree with me, the terrorist strength has reduced drastically in the valley. And as a result, you will not find targeting or offensive operations by the terrorists against the army or the police forces unless you have very, very soft targets like men on leave, a policeman operating single-handedly in some place, or some minority elements, Kashmiri Pandits or migrant people and things like that. That's the kind of what I call criminal kind of operations that they will conduct. But to come up front and contact the army, carry out an operation against the army or the police, I don't think they can do it. In this case too, it's not as if the terrorists came forward and attacked the army. They were in hiding. It is we who are searching. Because we are on the offensive, we are always searching, and success is mostly ours. 95% cases, the success is by the army. In 5% cases, we do lose soldiers, we lose officers, but that's a part of the deal, that's a part of the operational environment.
All right, let me bring in SP Vaid. Mr. Vaid, you have spoken about a compromised source leading the officers of the 19 Rashtriya Rifle and the DSP of Jammu and Kashmir to this location and then being ambushed, leading to their martyrdom. This is a serious claim because it also points to local complicity in this act of terror. Do you want to elaborate why you said what you said?
Maria, good evening to you and the viewers and my esteemed colleagues on the panel. And first, my tribute to those who laid down their life for the country. See, what I said is out of my experience. Most of the time we have seen such sources are compromised. They have, it could be, I said, those who are investigating the case need to look into this aspect also and see whether the source who brought this information was compromised. Did he drew the officers for a maximum casualty of the senior officers towards the hideout, or was it the source was not compromised? That aspect needs to be seen. Another point which I wanted to make is, whenever cordon is laid out, it has to be a surprise element. Otherwise, terrorists would escape. They would not continue to stay in the hideout. And was that surprise element missing, or was the timing and the route of the security force party, the army and police party, known to the terrorist? Was it disclosed? Was it a deliberate, planned ambush on the approaching party to inflict maximum damage and eliminate the leadership, so that the whole narrative of Kashmir Valley could be changed, particularly after the G20 success of the and India taking a world stage. So I think these aspects need to be looked into. And the other point which I'm seeing is, look at the operations which are happening in last about a year in Rajouri Poonch. Most of them, I think, the strategy has been changing over a period of time. You saw after terrorists suffering a lot of losses in Operation All Out since 2017. They about 3 years back resorted to targeted killings, and after that, when security forces were able to have an upper hand on that, now they have realized that staying in inhabited areas, they have very little chance of escaping and getting killed. So I think the pattern both in Rajouri Poonch and this yesterday's attack looks like that, they are resorting to hideouts in the forest, come out, something guerrilla warfare, cause maximum damage to the army or the police, and go back to their hideouts.
Okay.
And that pattern actually is quite apparent from Rajouri Poonch attack and also yesterday's attack in Anantnag.
Okay. General Dua, your thoughts on this? There were multiple intelligence reports, both from local police and central agencies. There were inputs over multiple days that these terrorists were holed up. The commanding officer of RR himself led the men, but still we lost 3 brave officers. Do you think we need a better integrated approach, or this is an aberration, a case of we missing the target? One of those unfortunate times the terrorists got the better of us.
Maria, I would also like to begin with paying a tribute, first of all, to the 3 fallen soldiers. Having said that, well, it was an intelligence-based operation, that's for sure. Like Mr. Vaids has a suspicion that it might be compromised source who may have brought information to them. Whether or not that is true, I will, at the expense of repetition, it was an intelligence-based operation. Only then you would have the commanding officer going along or leading the operation, because they were very sure of terrorists being in a certain place. I, as a commanding officer, have led many such operations, and I realized that's the way it would have happened. So, and that's how the DSP also accompanied them. because all the operations in J&K are joint operations between Army, RR and the police. But somewhere, either the terrorists have gotten a wind of it, or the source was compromised. Either way, what has happened is that they've opened fire on our security forces before the cordon could be established. So perhaps they got lucky that in the first volley of shots, the first exchange of fire, they've hit the leadership of the operation, and we lost 3 brave hearts. But having said that, that's the tactics of the operation. Allow me also to say, there might be some repetition here, but allow me also to say that over the last 3 years, as the parameters are getting better, when I was the corps commander, there was so much violence, there was so much stone pelting, there was funds, hartals, schools being closed. Today, all the parameters are improving. There is life is getting back to normalcy, as it were. So there is a drive on the part of Pakistan, on the part of the terrorist regimes, to let that feeling not set in, that feeling of normalcy, and they want to continue to create a little, instill some fear in the minds. To do that, like Mr. Vaid said, they're changing the tactics to go into the mountains and jungles, because as you see, Rajouri Punch, where operations are going on, and over here, it is mountains and jungles that are being targeted.
Okay.
So, allow me to just end by saying,
go ahead.
This kind of thing will be avenged. 19RR, who lost a commanding officer and a company commander, is a very fine unit. When I was the corps commander during that time, this is the unit that had eliminated Burhan Wani. The tactics of it, these 2 terrorists, I'm sure, will be eliminated. But we have to make sure that we use technical enablers in a better manner. I understand there are constraints in the thick of the jungles, but we have to get better intelligence and follow our SOPs.
You know, Major General Yashmore, the point being made here, I'm going to take that thought a little forward with you. 6 days ago, Riaz Ahmed, alias Abu Qasim, top terrorist who's affiliated with Lashkar-e-Taiba, wanted in India for attack in Dhangiri village of Rajouri, was shot dead. This was 4th such killing of wanted terrorist in POK in recent times. It is being believed that this was a retaliatory strike. Could that be the case? Do these terror groups still have the infrastructure to strike with impunity?
First of all, thank you for inviting me. I have been a Kokernag company commander, and I was personally in touch with Major Ashish, having been the same company commander 20 years back, and still having connections and, with the contact with the Awam there, with the young people, young children, because that's the kind of efforts 36RR would put in before 19RR came and took over this area sometimes in 2019. So I understand that area. I have walked miles and miles in this area for 2 years. And Myra, we had absolutely finished the Lashkar, Harkatul Jihad-e-Islami and HM in small team operations. In सारी तंजीमों की हमने कमर तोड़ के रख दी थी उस टाइम पे. Now, मैं कह रहा हूँ, militancy has changed. I understand terrorism has changed. And 19RR is an outstanding unit. And both these officers, the commanding officer, Manpreet, and the company commander, Major Ashish, have already done about a year and a half there. They understand the people. They have a good internet network. They are totally seasoned soldiers. They cannot make a mistake easily. So whatever has happened, it's just unfortunate we have taken a hit. And I'm sure 19RR, the Indian Army, we have the technology, we have the people with us. That is the one thing I want to tell you. The people of Kokernag immediately closed down the market today. And they were standing on the road with pictures of these heroes on the placards. ये मैंने पहले कश्मीर में नहीं देखा. Black flags being waved to the vehicles on this, in the entire stretch. And there's a narrow stretch which connects Khanabal, Anantnag, Kokernag, goes to Valu, and then from Valu one road leads to Dakshum and Sintan Pass, another leads to Gadol. And this operation where it has taken, this is one of the most, very few people live there. It is broken terrain, very tough terrain. road also exists only for a short while. After that, it's thick jungles, and you are under observation all the time if you walk on that particular road. So what has happened, I don't want to go into the details, but the very fact is that these three officers, including the police officer, J&K police officer, brave people, brave soldiers leading from the front. Now, I don't want to get into Zingoism or rhetoric. Army will take a call. We will understand this operation, what has gone wrong, and then analyze it. And in a very cool and calm manner, I think 19RR very quickly will avenge this. That is one part. Now, Pakistan, you are aware, even the two corps commanders spoke of this. Situation in Valley has undergone a drastic change. And so anything, I don't think they planned this and got them there, and it just happened. It just happened, I think. So one of the bad days in field, it can happen to any force. So, but there is a tendency, if it's happening in Rajouri, it's happening. Otherwise, South Kashmir, Anantnag, these areas, and Kokernag is one of the most beautiful gardens you can see in entire Kashmir.
Yes,
so beautiful. Of
Major General Yash Mode, I was in this area, Pahalgam and Anantnag, only just a couple of weeks ago, and the change that you see in this entire area is visible. It's transformed. There are not too many army columns either.
There are young people
moving
Maria,
around.
in this area.
It is almost like a peaceful, normal
young
city.
people who wish to become officers in the army. I'm telling you, we are mentoring large number of young people in Anantnag and Baram, in this entire stretch, who wish to become officers in the army. So I see a big change among the young people of the older generation. So Pakistan will try. I'm sure we will get back. And but we should not get, as General Asnan said, get into any retaliatory mode immediately. We must take a step back, analyze and use technology. We have drones now. We have quadcopters now. I'm sure these guys can't get away from this area with the kind of forces we have in that area. I'm sure in a day or two you'll hear we've eliminated and send these guys to the place they belong to.
Major General Mestron, thank you so much for your patience. You have served in Afghanistan and have been part of several delegations in this region as well. There is great churn which is happening both in Afghanistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. In fact, as we speak, there is great trust deficit also between Taliban and the regime in Pakistan. The churn which is happening in Balochistan and others. How do you see all this affecting security situation in Jammu and Kashmir region? And in particular, when we look at that region and also India as a whole.
Maria, good evening. And firstly, the nation pays salute to the true martyrs of the country. They are the true heroes. You have raised a very pertinent issue of Afghanistan, Pakistan, and so forth. Having served in that area and also for 10 years in J&K, I am quite convinced that the Pakistan will continue to resort to its terrorist activities. That is the main agenda. And when I say Pakistan, I imply Pakistan Army and the ISI. That is the whole theme. And why they are doing it, let's be very clear. Because they could never tolerate a strong India and a strong Afghanistan on both sides, and therefore their intent was to weaken and finish off Afghanistan and also create chaos on the Indian side along the borders of India, Jammu and Kashmir, and also in Punjab. And subsequently, they are indulging in narco-terrorism or putting drugs inside a country. So this has been their strategy. And of course, the Durand Line issue is well known. The Kashmir issue they keep up raising because they are actually countering the Durand Line issue. In fact, India's strategy should be, we have to counter the Durand Line issue because that is not the border between the then British India and the Afghanistan. So that is their whole strategy, and India's strategy again needs to be very, very clear. Firstly, we need to actually now we are in a position of strength as on date, whether it is economic position, whether it is G20, the successful we have done. Today, Pakistan is a nation which is isolated. And if you see, their only one all-weather friend is China. And recently, the Chinese have posted a new ambassador to Taliban-run Afghanistan. So what I'm trying to highlight is that India now needs to leverage its all advantages. Let us not resort to direct warfare. Let us resort to indirect warfare. Pakistan Army in India is resorting to indirect warfare by using terrorists. Is the Pakistan Army getting involved? No. They are saving their casualties. India can therefore do lots, and we have large number of assets on the Afghanistan border who are ready to do something, and let's hit the Pakistan Army let's teach the enemy the way they should learn. And that should be our strategy. So Pakistan will continue. Today, the good thing is we have already resorted to the IMEC corridor. So Saudi Arabia, UAE, these were the states which were also funding them. Now that would cease. So that is something very good. The National Investigative Agency is doing an excellent job. And large number of issues have happened where the narco-terror funding has actually quite come down. And in the last 3-4 years, we see terrorism has come down. And another thing I would like to highlight, that we have to focus as a strategy on the youth of Kashmir. They are our own country people. And let me tell you, the Director General National Cadet Corps, this is one of the biggest assets in our country. And today, in Kashmir, the NCC is one of the most preferred choices. Today, you have women and the young students waiting to join the NCC. For a vacancy of about 125 cadets are applying. Many school institutions are waiting to join or apply for NCC. So this is very good thing. And today, Kashmiri students and the youth from India are visiting Kashmir.
Visibly. And that change of transformation is visible on ground. And I'll agree with Major General Yashmore when he says that that imagery of the people of Anantnag coming out and saying with posters becomes very, very important. They are standing up against terrorists and saying that this is not okay, that you cannot do what you did. Thank you so much for your time, Lieutenant General Ata Hasnain, Lieutenant General Satish Dua, SP Vaid, Major General Sanjay Miston and Major General Yashmore. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on this huge, huge tragedy. There are several families, 3 families, which have been devastated, which also includes a small baby, a toddler who perhaps even doesn't know what has really happened to his father. I also spoke to General Huda on this tragedy which has happened, and listen in to what he had to say. Now we are being joined by Lieutenant General D.S. Huda, former Northern Army Commander. General Huda, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. We have lost 2 Army officers, a senior police official in what is an ongoing operation. It's a fierce gunfight with terrorists. What makes operations in South Kashmir so challenging, General Huda?
Bhatia, let me just start by, conveying my deepest condolences to the families of Colonel Manpreet, Major Ashish and DSP Humayun. Such tragic news is always a sort of a body blow to the families, and our deepest condolences to them. On the issue of what makes these operations challenging, Bhatia, we say it's a war fought amongst our own people. And so, you need to make sure that there are no unnecessary civilian casualties. It's difficult to sort of identify and make out, who's a friend, who's a foe, because everyone is similarly stressed. The terrain is very, very tough. So this encounter apparently took place in a forested area. So these are some of the challenges that I think, soldiers and security forces, personnel who operate in Jammu and Kashmir, these are what they face, and almost on a day-to-day basis.
And General Huda, the attack has been claimed by the Resistance Front, which is an offshoot of the Lashkar-e-Taiba. And they are saying that this is an act of revenge for the killing of their leader, Riaz Ahmed, in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir earlier this month. Do you think there is some kind of operational, challenges in terms of what we do not know? There are several things that we do not know, but the fact is that we have our top officers martyred there.
I know, look, Maria, you will not, only people on ground know exactly what the situation is like. And many of these, operations take place in a sort of in an opportunity moment. So from what we know, the information was available to our troops, and that is why they launched the operation. So it wasn't as if it was an operation which was initiated by the Resistance Front. It was initiated by us. Unfortunately, they got into an ambush, and while as much as we do try and prevent these incidents, Maria, the reality is that sometimes these setbacks do happen. And how the army sort of handles these setbacks and, gets back to its role is something that is well known to them. And so I wouldn't, give too much credence to the story of that, we have avenged so and so got killed in Pakistan, and therefore we have. I think it was more sort of an opportunity that presented itself, which is why this incident has happened.
And despite immediate reinforcements, the officers could not be evacuated because of heavy firing from the well-entrenched terrorists, is what the information from the ground zero is coming. General Huda, this terrorist module, many think have been more or less neutralized in Jammu and Kashmir. What we have seen in recent times, and I was in Pahalgam only recently, that it's a transformed Kashmir. There is very few deployment also of the army. It's not like a city which is under siege anymore. It's very different from what we have seen in the past. Where do you think the army's role becomes important, particularly after an incident of this nature?
So, Maria, as you said, you've been there and you've seen a transformation. Sometimes, we tend to take one or two incidents and sort of try and exaggerate them in the sense that, the security situation has suddenly gone bad. I would be reluctant to sort of say that. It's better to look at sort of long-term trends and see how the situation is going rather than, try and have one or two incidents sort of dominating our narrative about the security situation. The army has, pretty much controlled the situation in Kashmir. The violent incidents have gone down. And so now the role of the army there is to make sure that the security situation remains under control.
And what the sources on ground are suggesting is that this is perhaps the same terrorist module which was responsible for an attack on 5 army soldiers in Jammu's Poonch area in April. And they could be behind the incident in Anantnag. And this new terror module comprises of terrorists from Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed. And they have been active for the past 6 months. Does this have to do with homegrown terrorists?
So, Maria, as I said, we really don't know, what and exactly what has happened. What you are suggesting is likely because we have seen, as I said, some infiltration and incidents taking place in the Jammu region. And the likelihood of groups which have recently entered into the Jammu region, crossing over the Pir Panjal and coming into South Kashmir is very likely.
General Huda, I appreciate your time. Thank you for speaking to NDTV. We'll try and get more details and perhaps have another round of conversation with you soon.